Phelim Usher. I am the team leader for Green Finance, and quite neatly, I'm also starting to work on Scottish Government's Natural Capital Programme as well. I should also say, for absolute clarity, I was only told I was doing this yesterday, so I've scribbled some notes down, and together we're going to work through them, and you're going to hear some stats and numbers from me that you don't have to take notes on, but hopefully it'll contribute to the wider discussions. Like I say, thanks very much for asking the Scottish Government to participate. I think, unsurprisingly, one of the big focuses of the Government, as illustrated in the programme for Government previously, and in our National Strategy for Economic Transformation, is an increased focus on nature and climate over the next, not one, not two, but 30 years. And so I think for us, one of the more significant outcomes of COP26 was bringing nature to the forefront of the discussion, as hadn't been previously done, and the First Minister, alongside leaders from over 140 other countries, signed the Leaders' Pledge for Nature, an international commitment to reverse biodiversity loss and create a nature-positive society by 2030. The pledge highlights the need to transform and reform our economic and financial sectors, because I noted that down because I would forget it. And I think this is particularly important to us in Scotland. Scotland is a country, as I'm sure we'll discuss today, of immense natural wealth. We are clear on the need to not only consider our impact on that natural wealth, but consider how that natural wealth can also be used in a much more open, free, fair and democratic way. In tandem with our just transition to net zero, we're also striving for this nature-positive economy in helping to tackle the global nature crisis. I'm sure that all of you know lots of the statistics a lot better than I do, but I have noted down that the World Economic Forum estimated that over half the world's total GDP is dependent on nature. I think probably we would consider that to be a little bit of an underestimate, because, well, you know, you could say, yeah, the economic values attached to nature. There are a whole host of other societal well-being benefits that are attached to nature, productivity, that we don't see counted in there. So, yeah. Our view, specifically on TNFD, is the success of TNFD bring much needed consensus to the market that perhaps doesn't exist yet. As Richard said earlier, there's a lot of data, a lot of metrics out there, not all of them readily comparable, making it very difficult for regulators, investors, individuals to work out what it is companies are doing, what it is they want to do, and how well they're doing it. And I think the fact that this is TNFD's market-led is pretty key to all of this. I think we have discussions often about the nature of regulation as a stick and everything else as a carrot. I wouldn't necessarily subscribe to the view of all regulation being a stick, but I think it is important that it is business coming up with these metrics and applying them in a standardised way. In that regard, then, the Scottish Government is very supportive of the efforts of both TCFD and TNFD. And I think through its framework, empowering institutions to identify and understand their nature-related risk will be a big step change for the next couple of years. In terms of what the Scottish Government is doing, we've been clear through, as I say, our national strategy on economic transformation, that investment in natural capital is both an economic opportunity as well as a societal essential. We have a whole series of targets that I'm sure you're all aware of. Our 2045 net zero target, into which we've folded others: peatland restoration, afforestation, protection of species, etc. And I think the TNFD, alongside the Scottish Government's interim principles on responsible investment, is important as it underpins the high level, our high integrity investment we want to see coming into Scotland by the end of the decade. We are, and now you'll have to forgive this because this is full Scottish Government. Scotland is the second largest financial sector in the UK, and we already manage 11% of the UK's entire ESG funds, amounting to around £590 billion. This represents a significant opportunity for Scotland to continue to contribute to global solutions, and it's through that we'll be able, on that basis, that we'll be engaging in the TNFD as members, of course, of the forum. We believe, in addition, that our advisory firms can drive and profit by facilitating uptake and understanding of TNFD, and I think Richard mentioned earlier the task force on green sustainable financial services, in Scotland. We are discussing with both jointly and individually with members what we can do to make TNFD a little bit easier to understand, including I'm aware that we're discussing some sort of qualification or kind of badge of approval that we'll be able to give to actors in the market, appreciating that, of course, for lots of individuals and investors, simply saying we do a lot on ESG doesn't always guarantee quality. So I think that's something that we can definitely work towards. As I say, I think adoption of TNFD framework spreads, the approach a company's strategic planning, risk management, asset allocation will also shift. This is creating huge potential for us in Scotland. Unsurprisingly, we've identified in Scotland, as with many others, that by the end of the decade, we're facing a massive shortfall to the tune of tens of billions in our efforts to hit net zero. We are aware that we can't do this without private investment, but we are also clear on the need to make sure that the investment that's coming in is high integrity, it's high quality, that everybody's doing what it says on the tin. And like I say, part of this will be focus on some of our natural capital investment. And then just to say, to end then, sort of by anticipating and the shift that we're seeing now, anticipating it better, working with brothers and sisters in the private sector and you guys as well, we'll be able to take advantage of this in a much more strategic way and make Scotland a better and freer destination for some of this natural capital investment. So, voila. Thanks very much.
Thank you very much, Phelim. That's fantastic to get the Scottish perspective, and there is so much opportunity here for Scotland to demonstrate leadership. So I'm really pleased that